With James Gunn's The Suicide Squad movie just around the corner, our expectation is sky high, and we cannot wait for the movie's release. Although this, admittedly, feels all too familiar.
This is the deal. You're going somewhere very bad to do something that'll get you killed.
Even though the release date is in sight, we just cannot wait a moment longer, so we decided to take a look behind the scenes of the upcoming flick to give ourselves another dose of carnage. We'll be taking a look at how they made it, including the use of both practical effects and visual effects, how the characters are more comic book accurate, the grand scope of the movie, and some general behind-the-scenes stuff. Let's take a look. Now, it's no secret that CGI and VFX is prevalent in the movie industry, and the Suicide Squad is no stranger to using computer graphics to come up with some of the visuals. Because, of course, giant villainous starfish and anthropomorphized sharks with dad bods don't actually exist in real life. But if you're not a big fan of VFX, you'll be happy to learn that there are actually a number of practical effects throughout the movie. Director James Gunn was apparently tired of movies laden with heavy CGI after working on Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 1 and 2, and the director has always wanted to use more practical effects in one of his own movies. In an interview with Total Film, Gunn said, "By having so many enormous practical sets in the movie, I think it just makes for a richer experience, a more creative one." Now, according to Gunn, his favorite shot throughout the entire movie is the moment that King Shark straight up rips a man in half. To pull off this shot, King Shark was, of course, inserted into the scene via CGI, while the man was actually a dummy mixed with prosthetics to get that whole ripping in half look.
Fatality.
When discussing the film, Gunn stated that this movie is the most fun that he has ever had, and while turbulent circumstances led to him being fired by Disney and Marvel, and eventually being rehired before heading to their rivals Warner Brothers and DC, Gunn said that by allowing creativity to beat out perfectionism, being in a great place emotionally and mentally, having an amazing cast and crew to work with, and being at what he felt was the height of his directing abilities, led to him making a movie that he is the most proud of. In terms of behind the camera, Gunn said that he was given a lot more creative freedom at Warner Brothers than with the original Suicide Squad, and that they basically left him to his own devices. Now, in comparison, while on Guardians of the Galaxy, Kevin Feige had a much more active involvement in the creative process, and especially in the editing room. But let's be honest, it's not exactly worked out badly for them, has it?
We're gonna be rich!
Apparently, though, the movie had a lower budget than expected, and because of this, Gunn had to work quickly in the 4-month shooting schedule, often only using 1 or 2 takes per scene. However, this quick pace actually turned out to work well for him, as it set the mood between the cast and crew and helped contribute to the actual pace of the movie. But that doesn't mean that this film will lack in scope. Not at all.
Oh my god, we've got a freaking kaiju up in this shit!
This film has a huge production with hundreds of extras and military vehicles being used for filming. Gunn even said that they created a set bigger than any made by Warner Brothers before, building a set the size of 3 football fields for the outside of Jotunheim, where the final battle was filmed. A warehouse-sized jungle set was also built, featuring a bamboo cage that was 8 feet deep, or 2.4 meters for you metric system users out there. The movie was shot in 2 locations, Atlanta, Georgia, which was mostly used for interior shots, and Panama, which was used for external shots and acted as the fictional South American island state of Corto Maltese. Apparently, Panama served as an inspiration for the color palette of the movie as well.
Gracias.
With the movie's production designer, Beth Mickle, using her surroundings while working on the sets. Also, Gunn wanted the island to look drab and monotone, with the sets often gray and monochrome, until the squad emerge and the frame pops in color. However, working in Panama wasn't all that easy, as, according to Margot Robbie, the excessive heat led to some practical issues, saying your makeup is running, your hair is genuinely sticking to your face in sweat. However, apparently the cast and crew found quite a few local rum bars that kept them having fun and staying cool in the heat. While we might still be in a global pandemic, this is a film that is not built for the small screen at home, but for the big screen, with Gunn saying that he made it for IMAX. It's meant to be immersive and panoramic. It's a graphic novel brought to life, and all the wackiness of DC will be brought to the big screen. Built for IMAX and shooting in that format was part of the reason that Gunn was drawn to the project. However, one thing that didn't come easy was the age rating.
What's the matter with you people? We We can't do this kind of stuff anymore.
Apparently, Warner Brothers weren't thrilled with the idea of having the movie rated R and wanted to make it PG-13, but were eventually convinced by Gunn to give it that R rating. After his unceremonious breakup with Marvel, James Gunn was offered a number of other DC projects to work on, including a Superman movie, but settled on Suicide Squad as he saw it as more of a fun playground. Also, because this movie is neither a sequel nor reboot to the first Suicide Squad, Gunn was excited to make it his own thing. Apparently, when it comes to DC, Gunn has an extensive knowledge and he put it to good use when working on this movie. Because of this, Suicide Squad will introduce more DC characters than any live-action film made before. A number of the characters are actually the least bankable characters in DC's catalog. Filling the movie with all these obscure and little-known characters was much more true to the comic books in Gunn's eye. As we mentioned earlier, Gunn was so happy to work on the project because of the amazing cast and crew, although he was admittedly terrified of Viola Davis, despite the fact that she was apparently actually one of the sweetest people he's ever met. Peacemaker, who John Cena labeled as a douchebag Captain America, was originally intended to be played by Dave Bautista, but he instead opted to star in Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. Idris Elba was originally set to replace Will Smith's Deadshot, but decided to give him another role just in case Smith decides to return to the DCEU in the future. Harley Quinn will be closer to the comics and animated series than ever before, and will be providing some ass-kicking in the movie. Now, this film is going to be very close to the source material, according to Margot Robbie, with her even finally kitted out in red and black. Now, even though I haven't seen the movie yet, I am in love with King Shark.
I wear disguise.
You still look exactly like yourself.
Worst fake mustache I've ever seen.
And the stupid but kind shark was even Joel Kinnaman's favorite character. When discussing how Gunn convinced Stallone to voice the role, he said, "I wrote this role for you in Suicide Squad. It's a big, kinda chubby, human-eating shark." To which Stallone said, "Anything for you, brother." However, while I'm already in love, there are a number of fans online who aren't too keen on his design. But Gunn explained his reasoning online, saying, "I did tests with the hammerhead design, which I love and originally thought I'd use. But having eyes on the sides far apart made it incredibly awkward shooting interactions with other people." This movie will be a gritty 1970s war movie combined with Gunn's unique characters and comedy, according to those behind the scenes. If it's as successful as it looks to be, Gunn will be the man to thank, along with his unique point of view and heart, with Cena saying he cares so much about what he's doing, and I think especially when he's put in a position to write, develop, and do this by his rules, essentially. However, Gunn wasn't the only director linked with the job, with Guy Ritchie, Mel Gibson, Ruben Fleischer, Daniel Espinosa, and Jonathan Levine all considered. Man, imagine if Guy Ritchie did a Cockney version. God, I kinda want to see that. Anyway, when comparing this movie to Guardians, Gunn said that this movie, despite having tons of heart and emotional moments, will be less sentimental. The characters in Suicide Squad are bad people, and despite him being just as lovable, King Shark isn't as sweet and innocent as Groot. Whether or not this movie will lead to a sequel remains to be seen, but Peacemaker will be making his way to the small screen with his own show, although Robbie is taking a break from Harley after this movie as she finds her exhausting. Now let's end this on a nice piece of trivia. While the movie will have a July release in the UK and France, in the US and Canada, the movie will be released on August 5th, which just so happens, not so coincidentally, to be James Gunn's 55th birthday.
And
We're all gonna die.
I hope so.